There he is.
Can you hear me and see me better?
I can hear and see you better. You look beautiful. Way better. You're starting to scare me a little bit. You didn't seem like yourself, man. You're scaring me. So we still have the very first question and answer that we recorded. So we're good on that. But it sounds like you heard it. I'll repeat it for the sake of our flow in this pod. But like, you're Shaq's son. Like that's a part of who you are. That's something you can't escape. You're moving around a lot. So like every year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, whatever it was, like people and kids, I would imagine like your teachers and your neighbors, they all knew who you were, why you were moving in, why you're moving out, like the nature of that lifestyle that you guys had. Like tell us about that. Was that hard?
Yeah, it was pretty hard. I feel like for me, a lot of the kids were too young to notice at first. The older kids in the school would for sure know. But
Yeah.
the kids like my classmates, they were too young to really pay attention to basketball. But once I got to say middle school, that's when it started getting really, really different because kids knew who Shaquille O'Neal was like because he plays for the team in the city.
Right.
So that was hard, like finding friends who were really there for me or who were there just for the fact of who my family is. So, I feel like that kind of uh, build me as a person who I am now just because I kind of had to learn from mistakes and meeting people and like telling fake
Right.
love from real
What
love.
was that? That was going to be as you were talking, that was my follow up question. Like, how did you get good at that discernment? Like, how did you figure out how to read people and know what their intentions were?
I feel like for me when I was young, it just was if there was one of those kids, who was always constantly bringing up like that factor, like, oh, your dad's this, your dad that. Are you going to the game? Oh, let's hang out so we can go to
Right.
the game. Like one of those kids, I was like, okay, yeah. But there was one of my best friends. He didn't in middle school. He didn't really know until he came over.
Oh,
When he
yeah.
came over, he's like, oh, why didn't you tell me? And I was like, I mean, I would have said something, but I just didn't want you to treat me different. He's like, oh,
Right.
I don't even like basketball. So I was like,
Right.
oh, okay, cool.
You're like, that's
But
perfect. That's perfect
yeah,
because I don't either.
he said, I know who he is, but I don't like basketball, so I don't really
Yeah.
care. So I was like, okay, cool. So yeah.
That's cool. And something that I don't know how involved you were in these conversations. I felt like John, for people listening, John Jenkins, one of our teammates this year, we had this conversation of, I always wanted to know what it was like for him finding his wife. Kind of like a similar question that you can come across when you're in this world of professional sports is like, how do you date? Like
Yeah.
not knowing someone's intentions. And I always told John, like he had a difficult time navigating that. I'm sure you do. I'm sure other guys do. And I'm like, from my life, feel super lucky that I dated my wife who, we dated in high school, like before I, really gave professional sports any thoughts. And even now, like she loves sports. She loves coming to my games, but like I'll play terribly and I'll be like, oh man, I feel horrible. And she's like, why? You played great. And you're like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. That's why I married you. Like she doesn't care. So it's not a part of it. So once you establish like this pattern of, okay, I know who really likes me for me, like, do you feel like your life took off, like your life got a little bit easier because you could figure out how to make like true, like real friends who like Shareef for being Shareef?
Yeah, now I can kind of tell right away. And I've kind of
Like
stuck with the same
instantly, like you
friends.
can tell right away, like the moment you
Yeah, I
meet
feel like
someone.
now I kind of can like within a 10-minute conversation, I can kind of tell what type of person someone is. But
Yeah.
I feel like I just stick with like my friends usually are the guys I play on the team with. Like every teammate I've ever had in my whole life, like I'm still friends with all those guys. It's
Yeah.
super cool. So I feel like those are my friends, and then I have my little group that I had in high school. There's guys I hung out with. So I feel like the more friends I make now are just through basketball. I feel like because every basketball player has that sort of connection and
Yeah.
relation in some way. So
And that's because like you're now, maybe it's a little bit easier now that you're like, you're a professional athlete yourself, so you're blazing your own like path.
yeah,
Like you're not just Shaq's son. Like you've moved out of the shadow. Like you're doing your own thing. Like you're blooming as an athlete and as a person.
yes.
Um, what are like so in a 10-minute conversation with someone? What's like the number? Because you obviously meet a lot of people. Because you're in the spotlight. You have a big Instagram following. You have these sponsorships that we're going to talk about later. Um, like you're in a high profile world. Like, what's the one like red flag or sign that like in that 10-minute conversation you hear these words and you're just like, I'm out. This guy's not. This
Like,
person
where's
wants
your
something from me.
dad?
Say that again.
And when someone says like, "Where's your dad?"
They just
I
want to
feel
know,
like
like,
that's the
yeah.
number one question I get.
They just like they don't even want to get to know you. They're just trying to get to know your dad.
Yeah, like, where's your dad? How is he as a person? Does he actually act like that? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the conversations I have are based off of him, and a lot of things that something I've been doing a better job of. A lot of people will come up to me and say, "Oh, are you Shaq's son?"
Yeah.
I don't say yes or no. I just say I'm Shareef. Like,
I
my
love
name
that.
isn't Shaq's son because like that's literally not my name. But I've been doing a good job of saying like I'm Shareef. I'm not gonna say yes or no to that question, but
Right.
it's just I do
And
have a name. It's not
when
Shaq.
did that happen? Like, when did you realize you wanted to start saying that and setting the tone? Like, no, I'm like my own person. Like, I'm Shareef.
I really started doing that like a month or two ago.
Oh, for real? This is
Yeah,
a
this
recent
is really
development.
recent.
That's super cool. And
Yeah,
like,
I used to say,
what's the
yeah.
general reaction? Like, what do people? What's the like? Are people like, oh, like, is it
Yeah, they're
doing
like,
what
"Oh,
you're hoping
Shareef."
it?
Like, it does make the conversation a little awkward after because I'm
Good.
correcting them, but they're like, "Oh, Shareef," or they'll be like, "Oh, yeah, Shareef, I remember." Like, just trying to keep that name in their head instead of Shaq's son because that's not what I'm labeled as. It's not what it says on my jersey or anything like that. So I just always correct people on that.
Was that like was that something that came like from you, or was that like, were you listening to something or reading something or talking with someone and that came into your head, or was it like just self-reflection? Like, because I mean, that's some serious like introspection to be like, I'm gonna start like every conversation that I have, I'm gonna start with this. Like,
hmm
where'd that come from?
It was. I feel like it was one day where I just kind of ran into a lot of people who recognized me, and they all said it.
Yeah,
And then towards the end of the day, I was like, "All right, like,
that's it.
yeah, this is not my name."
That's
So
it. No,
yeah, so
I think
I
that's
feel like
super
that day
cool.
just clicked it.
And like, for me to hear that now, because we've had these conversations like during the season, like you said, you just get close when you're on a team. Like
Yeah,
that Ignite team, like, we're a brotherhood. On this last podcast, I was just talking about like the fact that our group chat is still as active as it is, months
I
after the
know.
season is over. Everyone is still in there. There's a couple guys that aren't like super active. They never were. Um, but like, I got to know this about you, like that you were your own person. Because of course I had my own thoughts coming in. Like, that was my perception of you. Like, oh, he's Shaq's son, and that's what I would, probably
Yeah,
lead when I was telling people, oh yeah, I'm on Ignite. I'm with this guy, and also Shaq's son, right? So you and I have had these conversations. So hearing that like you're at that point is super super cool. I think that's amazing.
yeah.
Um, like, continuing in that, like, blazing your own path. Like, what is your path? Like, where do you want to be? Who is Shareef going to be? Like, let's go long term, big picture, like 20 years from now. What have you accomplished?
The path that I'm blazing for myself, it kind of has parts to it. That one part is getting out of that shadow, and the second part is, kind of the whole bounce back thing from my surgery and all that. I want that to be a part of my path. Like, he went through this when he was young.
Yeah.
Kind of altered his path, but he made it back to the straight pathway again. So I feel like in 20 years, I just want to be known as that kid who, fought back from something that was life changing and made his dreams come
Yeah.
true. So
Can you
that's
talk
what
more
I'm doing.
about what you're referring to? Obviously, I know most people will know, because your story has been, it's very very cool. For those that don't, like, go into detail what you're talking about.
Yes, for those who don't know,
The one or two
when
people
I
that don't
was
know.
when I was 18 years old, say a few weeks before my first year at UCLA to play basketball, I wasn't cleared to play because I had a heart problem that caused me to get an open heart surgery right before I was 19. And this all happened within about 3 weeks before season is starting.
Yeah.
And, I was doing summer workouts. And then, once I did a few tests to get cleared, they they did not clear me to play, and that surgery kept me out for, I'd say, about a year and 7 months from basketball.
Jeez.
And
Yeah. Not easy to come back from.
yeah, it wasn't easy at all. It was pretty, it was really hard, but I'm kind of not glad it happened, but I'm kind of thankful it happened because it kind of matured me, and it really told myself, like, if I want to do this, I gotta go for it.
Yeah.
So
Was the fact that they found this this thing in your, which usually are like routine checkups like to clear you for college, like did it just totally catch everyone, including yourself, off guard? Like was it a blessing in
yeah,
disguise that they even found it? Like would you have ever found it otherwise?
yeah, no, that's the crazy thing. I did one certain test that wasn't really likely. I was new, and I told the trainer, I was like, yeah, when I was a little kid, I used to have this little heart problem. Like, my heart used to just beat really fast. So he made me do one certain test that no other schools really do, like,
Yeah.
for a physical.
Yeah.
And that's what found it. So, at first I was committed to Arizona. Not saying Arizona doesn't have a good medical staff, but they might have not have done
Right.
that test for me.
Like
So
you were like led exactly to where you needed to
I was
be
led
at the
exactly
exact moment.
where I needed to go.
No, that's cool. And then after you had the surgery, like maybe you don't want to talk about this, but like if they don't catch it, like what happens? Like
So one thing they told me was, like, a lot of people have this, but they don't know, because it's like you have to do this one certain test.
Yeah.
So they're like, you can play basketball for the rest of your life and you can possibly be fine, but one day it could happen.
Jeez.
So it's kind of like you're playing with your life if you choose to not
Right.
get it. So
Right.
that's honestly what I chose at first. That was the decision I made, 'cause I
Yeah.
was so scared of the surgery. So then literally the next day, I was putting on my shoes and all that, and I'm like, yo, if this is my last time playing basketball, that's going to be tragic after they told me.
Yeah.
So I told my coach, I was like, yeah, I'm going to get this surgery. And yeah, and they were saying, like, if it was just going to happen, that'll just be the end of it. Like, it'd just be death, because your heart is just overworked, and it'll be bad. So I'm glad I chose to get that surgery and not try to risk my life playing with it. Cause,
what was
yeah,
like where were you mentally at this point? Because like that, you're 18, 19, you're on the cusp of like, you're a big time recruit, you're blazing your own path, which is like a big part of what you're trying to do from a young age. You're going to an awesome school, like everything is kind of set up, right? And then
yeah.
it absolutely yanks you in the other direction. Like, how hard was that?
It was hard because I was ranked the number one player in California at the time, like,
Yeah.
in my class, and I was going to a school in California, so, like, the momentum was going really steep, like uphill. So everybody was excited. When they told me, I kind of just honestly thought, like, I wasn't gonna be able to play basketball ever again.
Yeah.
And I just, it didn't really hit me until, I would say, few days before the surgery, because I cried when they told me, but those 2 months I was chilling, I was with my family, I was just kind of thankful to be around all this. But once I had to fly out to Stanford to go get that surgery is when I completely lost it. Like, I was like, yo, I'm not gonna make it through the surgery. This is my last. Like all these thoughts were going through my head. I was like, I'm never playing basketball. And it was more like a confidence thing first, because I didn't know how I was going to be able to even come back from this. And then my confidence was really gone when I got up from the surgery and I tried to walk on my own.
Yeah.
Like, because I couldn't, they had to kind of reteach me how to walk again, because I tried to get up on my own to use the bathroom. And I just fell out on the floor, and it was just like, I can't even move my legs. I can't walk.
Right.
So I was like, after that, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm like, basketball is not an option. So
yeah, I've seen that video, which is first of all unreal. Like it's got to be so surreal being the person actually in the video. Like, people are trying to help you walk when, like, a week ago you were dunking, running.
Really, the day before I was like, oh yeah, I was doing something.
Yeah, you were probably windmilling or James Sutherland off the backboard through the legs. Yeah, what was the first step after surgery? Like, to recovery? Like you had to learn how to walk. Literally was step number one. How do you get from that to a year and 7 months later? Like you're back in shape, getting confidence, like your body, everything, like everything that you had to just cancel out for a year and 7 months. How do you get that back?
It was hard because I went into the surgery. I was 18, so I weighed like 215. But when I got out the surgery, I was probably like 170 something. Like
From
you
from
can like
from
see
just the
my
surgery?
ribs, and I was super skinny.
So like literally
What'd
just
you say?
like the procedure, like just wiped out your body.
Yeah, like I was super skinny, and I didn't have an appetite. Like I kind of had to be force fed when I was in the hospital, but I just couldn't eat it all. I feel like every time I took even a bite, like I had like one small bite of something, I feel like I was gonna throw up. So like I wasn't eating a lot, and I was 170 going back home, and I couldn't do anything for 7 months. That's why the 7 months is adding on to the year
Right.
because of my them breaking through my sternum. I couldn't carry anything over a certain amount of weight for 7 months because
Jeez.
if I were to overwork it, then the wires in my sternum could be crooked or it could just
Right.
kind of break on its own. So it was really hard. My first kind of mindset on this whole recovery was I got to eat to at least gain some weight.
Right.
So when I do come back, like I'd rather try to lose some weight than
Yeah.
have to keep gaining it while I'm working out. So now once I got appetite, I was just eating and eating a lot. And walking was my only source of recovery,
Jeez.
just to kind of get that heart rate working and the heart beating kind of fast sometimes. So me and my mom would go on walks, and I had to walk for months. Like I couldn't run, couldn't even lift up my arms past my shoulders. So that first 7 months was really, really hard. And then once my sternum was healed and I got it checked, that's when I started going back into basketball. And then I would do small workouts first. Like I'd do like a 20-minute workout, 30-minute workout. Just kept building, finally started lifting again. So, I kind of took it really slow. And I think that was something I did on my own because they didn't really tell me the recovery process or when I could get back to basketball. They're like, however your body feels, do it. So me being scared because I didn't know how I was going to do it, I go on a little jog.
Yeah.
I dribble a basketball, take some shots, like do a small basketball workout, and I kind of just built it up from there.
Did you have to almost like psych yourself out every time you had to take a little bit bigger step, like jumping from 20 to 40 minutes, from 40 minutes to an hour to on the court to lifting? Like every step you took, you probably were kind of scared, like after what you had been through, you're like, did they actually heal me? Like, am I good to go? They haven't given you any kind of direction. So like every single step probably took like quite a bit of courage.
Yeah, it's even still to this day. Like you saw me during that one situation this season,
Yeah.
like when the whole thing happened with DeMar Hamlin, like that just brought me back to 2018. I was like, yo, if I play this next
Right.
game, I'm like,
Yeah.
it's crazy, like, because I can go so long without thinking about it, and one little thing that reminds me about it, it just brings
It just
it all
like
back.
shocks
So,
your
that's
system
something
over.
I'm still trying to work on. It's crazy.
So that in that one particular time after the Hamlin incident, I think you just sat one game out, right? Did
Yeah,
you
just
just
one
kind of
game.
like recoup and like get yourself right? What did you do? We haven't even talked about this like at length. Like, what did you do to then be able to bounce back for the very next game? Like, you only sat out one game.
Yeah, I during when it happened, I called Pete. I told him first because I feel like Pete is like the uncle for everybody.
Yeah.
You can talk to him
Pete,
before anyone.
our athletic trainer.
Yeah, Pete's the trainer for Ignite, and I feel like he kind of helped me calm down a little bit. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna call your surgeon. He's gonna talk to
Yeah.
you." Because I didn't even think of that at first, and he thought of it, and that was a brilliant idea. Because after the game, I talked to him, and he's like, "What happened to DeMar Hamlin is so rare," and he's like, "You're fine."
Yeah.
And he was kind of, it was just a familiar voice who had something to completely do with my surgery.
Right.
Like he's the reason I'm here today. So hearing him talk to me, that just completely wiped it out. So as fast as it can remind me of the heart surgery, I feel like it's also some things that'll take it away pretty fast too. Like if I see it or hear
So you
it.
have you can't even lift anything for 7 months. It's a year and 7 months path. Like, how often were those like intrusive thoughts coming to mind? Like, what's the point of you? Like, I'm not going to be who I was before. why am I trying so hard? Like I need to just shift focus and I can't do this.
Yeah, that was probably midway through when, I couldn't even carry my backpack to class. When I started going back to
Yeah.
school. I started going back to school after a while. I had to have one of the team managers at UCLA, walk with my backpack to every class I went to.
There's some positives to that.
No,
just kidding.
It was cool.
Just
It
kidding.
was pretty cool.
A little personal
but,
assistant.
I know it's like a personal assistant. Like they did everything for me. But
Your homework too.
I feel like me going to school. What did I say? Me going to school, it was even harder because one, I was already sitting out for so long. Right. I went back and every single person on campus would just keep talking and talking about it. Yeah. In class, I would just be looking out of it. I was on so much medication. I was so skinny that where teachers were like, "Are you sure you need to be here?" So like. I just kind of didn't feel myself at all. Like I would be in class falling asleep. Like it was all types of stuff that the medication and all that was doing. And then I feel like me taking that medication put me in a worse place. Like it would help the pain, but
you were foggy.
Mentally wise, I just was not the same. I didn't even laugh, smile. Like one of my siblings would walk in my room, I'm getting mad at them. Like they're just trying to check on me. Friends would be calling. I don't want to talk. So. I feel like that's the point where I was like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm not playing basketball. Am I going to be a video gamer? Like, am I going to, do, I didn't know what to do. So,
yeah, where did your mind go? Where did your mind, what were other ideas you had? Like, if you thought this was over for basketball, like, what did you done to prepare, if anything at all? Or, like, what did you start exploring?
I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. My major was music at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of when I started making beats and all that stuff. And I feel like that kind of took me a long way. Because, one day I got kind of good. And I showed like my brothers and they're like, yo, this is actually pretty dope.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, music, I'm going to be a music producer. And then I just stuck to that for a few months, and then, once I started playing basketball again, I still kept that around. So I feel like that was one of the things that kind of helped me get through it. And music can take you a long way. Just hearing a song that you like or a beat that you like, that can make you feel like the number one person in the world. That's the powerful thing about music. So
yeah.
I feel like that's the route I took, and I started just going to concerts and listening to all types of music. I'll go to rock concerts, country, like it didn't matter. Just to hear music.
Little country Shareef, I like that.
To apply to myself.
Little country action. Now you're talking my language. You remember Wednesdays back with Ignite. I was in charge of the aux.
Yes, I do. With this thunder.
Thunderstruck. I try and get on the aux in the locker room before every game and play Thunderstruck, and Shareef wouldn't. He would allow it, but he would also probably leave as quickly as I could get the aux. Music is still something that's like a big part of what you're doing, though. I mean, obviously basketball is number one, but it's actually it's cool hearing that what you're still doing today in music dates back to like, connected to your heartstrings. Like you were starting to think, well, what am I going to do outside of basketball? You picked music. You obviously didn't finish in music. You didn't graduate in it, but like it's something that you stuck with and had as like, you could say as like a constant side project, like another part of you.
Yeah.
Are you still pretty actively like doing all that stuff?
Yeah, I'll make beats sometimes. I just listen to music, or my dad, he's back rapping again, so I gotta.
You also have a couple raps though.
Yes, I do.
And I'm actually kind of pissed thinking back. You still have not let me hear it.
I haven't let anybody.
No, that's not true, because I'm pretty sure you let some of the guys on the team hear it. I don't want to hear that.
I let London and Mojave hear one part of a song.
That's crazy. That just tells you where your priorities are, I guess. We had a couple guys on the team that were doing that. Leonard, obviously.
Leonard would do it. I don't know who else. I think London did one time. He might have made it.
Are you ever gonna sack up and just put it out there for the world to hear?
Yes, I'm trying to build that that courage to just drop the song. I said I was gonna do it like 2 months ago, but every day I'm like, I
Why
can't
wouldn't
do it.
you? What's holding you back?
I really don't know. There's no reason. I just wanted to sound more because I made it off my phone with some Apple headphones on an app called BandLab. So I want to actually make it in a real
Yeah.
studio so it doesn't sound
That's fair. That's fair.
too bad.
I still want to hear it. I still think you signed a contract to be on this episode, and you didn't read the fine writing, but it actually said you had to send it to me,
That you have to
or I could
send
sue
me
you
the
for
song.
everything that you're worth. What about one other thing that I just saw like 2-3 days ago that I wanted to ask, and this is kind of jumping back to your surgery. You mentioned like 20 years from now, like you want your story to be he overcame this huge thing, which you already have, right? You don't need 20 years to prove that. But you retweeted this thing that someone tweeted at you about Jeff Green, just winning
Yeah.
the NBA championship. He had open heart surgery, was a journeyman in the NBA. Obviously, huge accomplishment for anyone to win an NBA championship. I mean, it's a huge deal. But like his path obviously mirrors a little bit of what you've gone through. Like, was he like, did he come to mind? Like, did you talk to him at all as you were trying to recover, as you were
Yeah.
especially fighting through like the mental part of it?
Yes, he actually did, and I didn't know Jeff Green had went through a surgery until I went through mine.
Yeah.
And he DM'd me one day, and I was telling my friends, "Oh, bro, Jeff Green just DM'd me." And I answered, and he was talking. We just DM, have a regular conversation. Then he started like getting into more about like the heart, and I'm like, "Oh, this dude knows what he's talking about."
Yeah, he sounded like a doctor all of a sudden.
And then, yeah, I was like, "Oh, he knows what he's talking about." He's like, "Oh, how's your recovery? Are you doing this? Are
Yeah.
you doing that?" I'm like, "Damn." So then I finally found out like 2 hours after that he went through a surgery while he was in the NBA. So, once I figured that out, my respect for him just went through the roof. And I would always follow him, but I feel like now, like, I follow what he does way more just because out of everybody in the NBA, I don't know who else has had a heart procedure, but I feel like he's the one I could most relate to. And seeing him win a championship is just like, my eyes open big. It's like, even him being in the NBA, like, my eyes were like, okay.
What like
they're not gonna
do you
count me
remember
out.
any like specific, it could be physical but also like mental, do you remember him like walking you through, like, is there one thing that sticks out that he said that really helped you, like, as you like made your journey back to where you are now?
I think one thing that he said to me, I don't know if this was in person or through message, because I did see him a few times throughout that whole recovery process. Like I feel like I heard a lot from him was like, take your time. And that's something that, as a person who is just playing and you want to get back to it, it's really easy to rush through the process, because I wanted to play basketball so bad. He's like, listen to your body and take your time. Listen to your body is it's a basic saying, but it means so much if you actually understand what listen to your body is. It can save you from a lot.
Well,
So
how do you do that?
that's what I did.
How does someone listen to,
How
how
do
does
I
someone
listen to
get
my
in
body?
tune enough to like listen to their body? Like, I know what you mean, like, because like, as an athlete, like, your body is your job, but I want to hear your perspective on that. Like, how do you do that?
For me, like, listen to my body. There was what's it called? Like, there was some after effects to the surgery, to where like sometimes I can get like a random sharp pain in my chest, which was the worst thing ever. But
And probably super scary.
Yeah, it was just be like, we can have a regular conversation, and I'd be like, oh, and I just start screaming. Like, it was, for other people, it's probably even scarier because they didn't know what's going
Some
on.
PTSD from
I
your
knew it was
friends.
part of the whole
Like,
thing.
man, it's freaking us out.
But I feel like that was a way to help me listen to my body. I knew certain activities would make that happen more likely, and I knew that if my heart was ever beating too fast to where I got uncomfortable, if it scared me, I knew how to stop. And I had a lot of breathing exercise that helped me kind of listen to my body and see how I feel. If I wake up one day and I'm like, okay, my chest hurts a little bit, I'm not going to work out today. I'm going to just rest. Like, I had a lot of time to do that and a lot of time to think to myself. And I was isolated a lot because I was just laying down. So I did have time to like learn about my body more and learn about how my heart works, what's good, what certain movements or activities make it kind of work more and what doesn't. So I feel like that was the way I learned how to listen to my
As
body.
you were going back to like pursue basketball, because you ended up going back, you transferred schools and continued playing in college. Now you this last season you went professional, played summer league with the Lakers. You were with G League Ignite. Like, what was your parents' take on going back to sports? Like, were they scared at all? Like, were they trying to hold you back and push you in another direction at all, or where were their minds at?
My dad, he, I feel like both my parents did a good job of letting me decide. Whatever I said, they were going to be on board with it. They never said like they're scared for me to play because I think they knew that would scare me.
Right.
Because like I feel like that's something you don't want to hear from your parents. Like, we don't want you to play.
And they probably were scared. They probably were scared at first. So it was probably hard for them not to like walk that delicate line of we're scared, but we don't want to scare him. Like he is healthy and he wants to pursue his dream.
Like I remember, even like I know I was scared, and I knew my mom knew I was scared because the first time I went to go work out, and I was like, I literally got cleared. We flew to Stanford. I got cleared. We flew back the next day, and I went to go work out with my little brother's like 15 UAU team, my first basketball workout. And I told my mom because I just got cleared, and right before I left, I gave her a big hug because I just was like, okay, this is a very huge step. And I knew she was scared too because I could see it and look at her face. But I gave her a long hug, and then I walked out the door and went to that basketball workout. And then I couldn't even imagine what her nerves were like that whole time. Probably like, okay, let me stay by my phone, make sure he's okay. And my parents did a really good job of like just letting me decide and what I wanted to do, and how I wanted to take the rest of my time.
Do you feel like they were kind of like that your whole life? Like, were you forced to play basketball by your parents just because your dad played and your mom was obviously into it? Like, when did you start like loving it? When did you get into it? Was that your own choice too, or was it just by default kind of?
They always told us that the family doesn't need another basketball player. We need doctors, lawyers, all that. But like, if you want to play basketball, go ahead. They're like, whatever you do, we're going to support. Just make sure you are taking it serious and having fun and, making a good living out of it. So growing up, I tried everything. I tried every single sport. And, I was good at football, but once I got taller, kids just started going for my legs.
Going for the knees.
I feel like basketball just...
Kids are ruthless, man.
Yeah, the kids. Oh my gosh, I hated that league. They used to just dive straight at my knees.
I played the first year. I only played football 2 years. The first year was when I was in like fourth grade. So like kids like couldn't even really hit that hard. I was just scared. And I loved playing. I don't even remember what I started as. I might have honestly been O-line because I was like a big heavy kid, And at one point, like the coach was like, "Hey, actually, you're pretty athletic. You should play quarterback." And I played one game at quarterback, and I was like, "Never again." That was just getting hit just sucks. And then I played again. I played again in middle school, and they stuck me at tight end, and you don't really pass the ball in middle school. And quarterback, of course, was the coach's son, so they just ran the ball every time. So I was a glorified O lineman, and I was like, "This sport sucks." It's not good for super tall guys.
That's how it was for me. I was like, I hate football, but basketball just kind of came around because that was one of the only things I was sort of good at because it was always around. So there was the little hoops growing up. Once I was able to shoot on a big hoop, like my dad being in the NBA, of course I'm going to at least have a lot of knowledge on basketball as a kid. So I feel like that was the only thing I was really good at when I was younger, and I stuck with it. And then being in high school, I was so like lost on basketball going into high school because I didn't know like how offers any of that worked. So I got a letter and I started running around like because I was so happy off the letter, and I thought it was an offer, but it wasn't.
What was it?
So I think it was it might have been a Kansas letter, like the little letter of intent thing. So just fill your name out and all that.
Like they were gonna maybe start recruiting you, and you thought it was an offer.
Yeah, that they were recruiting me. So I was like, oh my, I got an offer from Kansas. Like,
just had no idea how it worked.
Yeah, I just embarrassed myself.
Uh,
But once that started happening, I started to fall in love with
so is
basketball.
that when it clicked? Like when you started getting like a little bit tall, a little bit bigger, a little bit better in high school, you got some attention from colleges. Is that when you were like, you know what, I actually see myself like following my own path down basketball as well?
Yeah, that's what it was because I knew I was really good. Like I was all every team I played for when I was a kid, I was always the best team. But there wasn't those people that were like, "Oh, you're
Yeah,
so good." Like everyone in your family knows you're good. But once I seen that people from different states, like colleges, were looking
yeah,
at me, I was like, okay, I can go far because I got a Kansas. Like Kansas has so many NBA
right,
players, such a legendary school. So I was like, if they're looking at me, then these people are looking
right.
at me. The NBA is looking at me. So I was like, okay, I can get to where I want to be. So yeah.
You mentioned how your family kind of said like we don't need another basketball player. Was that your dad's feeling as well? Like, did he ever try and dissuade you from playing basketball because he knew like the grind, the media circus that's gonna follow you, like the lifestyle that it brings? Like, did he ever talk to you about that stuff? Like, dude, it might not be worth it.
Nah, he never did. He didn't until I was older. I think he. Have you seen the new
I
Spider-Man yet?
haven't. It's on my docket though. We're gonna go see it.
Okay,
We need
you
a
need to see
babysit.
the new
Hey, we'll
Spider-Man.
fly you out. You babysit Gooby, and me and Gabby can finally get a date night.
I'm with it. But with that, I feel like it's just certain events that as a family you kind of have to
Yeah,
go through. So I feel like after something happened, then that's when he would talk to me about it. Like, let's say we would talk about basketball, but once I got started looking at colleges, then he would tell me about his college experience
yeah,
during that time. Once I decided to go pro, he would tell me about the differences and the similarities that we had. So I feel like it kind of has to happen in the family for an O'Neal boy for him to bring it up and talk to you about it. But before that, he wouldn't say like what comes with it, the money part, like the friends part, the traveling, all that being
yeah.
away from family. Like he didn't mention that until like I kind of went
What
through it.
was like the number one advice you got from your dad, but all like from all these mentors, from your mom too, from these mentors that you have access to, um, being in the network that you are, as you transition to like take seriously like high school basketball, and then when you decide to go play college, and then when you decide to go pro, like what was the advice that like the best advice you got as you went to each one?
My dad told me something when I was like, this was probably around my surgery. It's a pretty simple saying, but he just told me like, and it was randomly too. Like we were just sitting there. I think we were watching some college games while I was in the
Yeah,
hospital, and he just looks at me and he's like, "Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do
yeah,
something." So it sounds really simple, but at that time I was like, "All right, yeah, like whatever I believe I can do it." So I kind of stuck with that mindset too. Even going pro, like I didn't have the best college career at all. Like it actually wasn't good at all. But I wanted to go pro. I wanted to try it, and I feel like as an adult, you gotta go through trials and error. Like if it didn't work, I'm gonna keep trying and do something else. So all the people that were telling me you need to stay in college, another you need to do this, need to do that, go overseas, I was like, don't let anybody tell you can't do
yeah.
anything. So that's kind of it's basic advice, but I feel like I kind of stick with that every day. Like if I want to do something or if I believe I can do something, then I'm gonna go try it and go for it.
What's your next like big dream that maybe someone would try and tell you can't do that you know you can? Like what's the next big thing, the next big obstacle that you're gonna
Um,
tackle?
Now being in the G League, my next big thing that I know people are gonna say that I won't be able to do is get
Yeah.
call up or a contract from an NBA team. But I know for sure it's a grind. But I know that it's gonna be happening
How
one day.
where's that confidence come from, and what do you think like what do you need to do to make that jump? Because it is a grind. Like obviously, I know
Yeah,
I was
it
down
is.
there with you. Like, so what does
It's
Shareef
a
O'Neal have
grind.
to do to make that jump?
I feel like after reflecting on the person I am this year, I feel like this off season I've done a lot of reflecting on myself and what I could have done more, and managing time. And I know last year I could have spent a lot more time focusing on my game. It was my first year
Yeah,
being pro, And I was not used to having all that free time
Right.
that we had. It was crazy. Like, it was just so much to do. So, I feel like now I can kind of, this is my job. So I got to want to be the best at it. I got to get that promotion. So I feel like now I just got to be more in the gym, be more focused on my body and, the things I put into my body, the things I do. There's so much important stuff you have to do as an athlete: sleep, eat, recovery, weightlifting, basketball. So, now I'm just going to be in that gym and, show a consistent
Yeah.
Shareef, like at my best. There'll be those times where I can play really well. Then there'll be those games where I was out of it. So, I just got to show a more consistent Shareef, and I feel like that'll be something that'll help me
For
get
sure.
up there.
I don't think people realize like there's a really, you just hit it right on the head perfectly. Like there's a really, really big difference between playing a college sport and a pro sport, because pro, you have to be a go-getter. You have to be self-motivated. You have to do it yourself. Like not everyone has the luxury of being LeBron James and you have $1 million to spend on your body, like between having a chef and having a nutritionist. And like you hope that people at our level like invest and do those things, but you kind of got to do it on your own. Like you have to be, at some point you have to kind of be your own chef. You have to be your own nutritionist. You have to be your own trainer. You have to build your own schedule. And like no one's going to make, during these 3 months, no one's making us do anything. And that's like the grind of the G League is up top. The NBA, you get that a little bit less. There's some more structure. Even then though, like you have free time. Like so you need like you get out of it as much as you put in. And so I think it's really cool that you kind of had that like introspection, like I got to be in the gym more. Like how did you get to that point? Like did you literally just sit down and just start thinking? Like what was your process of really diving deep like into your own psyche and figuring out like how can I get better? Like what, asking yourself that same question that I just asked you, what does Shareef need to do to get to the next level? Like what kind of reflection and what process was that for you?
It's something. It was like exactly what you said. Nobody's making us do anything. So, after season, I took a little break. 'Cause
Yeah.
we traveled a lot. We did a lot of basketball. So, just to rest my body. And then I literally said, like, I said to my brother, this is my first real off season. Because in college, like, you go home for a little bit, but then they bring you right back in
Yeah.
the summer. So, like, they are making you do stuff. So I'm like, this is my first real off season. So at first I was like, oh, I can kind of do whatever I want. I can finally go out the country somewhere, like blah blah blah. And then I was like, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do basketball wise, because like I gotta find a trainer, gotta find somewhere to go, find someone to like help me get my body right and all that. So once I started reaching out to all these people to like help me get right, then I feel like, okay, this is how I gotta treat it during the season too. Even though coach says practice at this time, I have a car. I can go earlier. I can go after. Even though we have recovery with Pete, like I can still go find some more stuff to do, a yoga class or a Pilates class or something. So, now I have basketball, weights, treatment, and like Pilates all in the same day. And, that's all on my own schedule. So, if I can do it now, not being a part of a team right now, just by myself, I know that during the season I can also apply this. So I feel like I kind of matured in that way too by building my
I
own
think the
schedule.
epitome of like what you're saying is in especially in the whole world, but especially like the world of basketball, we love saying the Kobe mentality, right? Like because you hear these absurd stories like in the dream, the redemption team documentary that they did last year where everyone's coming back to the hotel. I don't know if you remember this. Everyone's coming.
Yeah, and Kobe's getting ready to work
They're all
out.
getting home at 5 a.m. Kobe's getting up to get an extra workout in, right? And they were all just, and these are Hall of Fame players that were blown away by his work ethic. Like I know, obviously, your families were close and are close. You grew up with like Kobe right in front of you. Like he, you talk about how he's a big part of your life this season. Like, do you feel like part of that comes from him? Like, do you feel that connection still?
Yeah, I do, and I feel like it's even the older I get, the more and more I'll be locked in. Like I gotta kind of build it one step at a time by adding things. But I feel like that's he inspired every single person to play basketball just by the way he thought. Like, not everybody may have liked him, but the respect he has in the basketball world is at the very top of the pyramid. So, it doesn't, I kind of had to learn that way too. Like, everyone might not be happy, but, I got to get to
Right.
where I got to be. So I could be blah, blah, blah in Hawaii with my friends doing this, doing that. Could be in LA with my peoples doing this, but I gotta make that sacrifice and come out here and just like do what I want to do, play
Right.
basketball.
I think that's amazing. What was that like? Like, this is kind of a tangent, but how unbelievable was it being that connected to like that dynasty that Kobe and your dad built? Like, you were right, you were front and center. I mean, how the amount of pictures you have where you're like on the championship stage and in the locker room, like,
yeah, it's crazy.
that must have been, you probably didn't recognize it as a kid, obviously, because kids don't know what the hell is going on. But like, looking back, that's got to be pretty cool to think like you were there, like you were part of it, and you're taking away pieces of it, whether you realized it back then or not.
Yeah, it is crazy to think about, and it's just it kind of all hit me when I did do Lakers for
Yeah,
Lakers
for
Summer
sure.
League. I went to the facility, and there was people that have literally met me
Yeah.
when I was a baby, still
Right.
in there working. So seeing like Jeannie Buss in there, and me walking in I was 22 at the time, a 22-year-old kid playing on the organization that I kind of was born into. That's when it kind of all hit me, and going to Staples Center sometimes, watching the Lakers and seeing all the security that are still there from 23
Yeah.
years ago. Like, it all just it still doesn't really sit with me 100% because I'm still
Yeah.
learning about it every day. Like, I see different pictures all the time and hear different stories. But, the fact that I was there for that first championship that my dad and Kobe won is just insane. Well, that was the year I was born, but it's
Yeah.
just insane.
One thing, first of all, I have to say that, like, again, I talked about this, but the ability you had to like take a step back after this season, at 23 years old, and say, dang, maybe I should have done this and this and this, and then now you're actually doing something about it, I think is unbelievable. And it's why you've been successful, why you will continue to be successful. Because when everyone asks me, is Shareef good? You played with him. Is Shareef any good? Is he going to make it to the NBA? First of all, I always give you props. I always say yes. Like, I'm your number one fan. But and I say, like, he gets one good off season and he's going to make it. And so it's cool for, like, you can ask anyone. I'll have to. Who did I don't even know who I had this conversation with. This was like 2 nights ago with my buddies. Like I said, if he has one good off season, he's going to be in the league. And so hearing that you've come to that same determination and realization, and that you're actually doing something about it, I think is really special. One thing I loved about you this year too was like the way you were able to obviously handle all like the attention, and we sort of talked about like moving out of your dad's shadow, blazing your own path. But one thing that you crushed this year, which you probably get sick of me responding to all your Instagram stories about this, but you're doing stuff off the court too. Like, not to the level where you're distracted, but like you have some cool deals. I think your most recent one is it with Skim? No, is it Skim Milk? No, it's Silk.
Silk.
Damn it! We're gonna have to edit that one. Your most recent one is with Silk.
Skin milk.
How did that come about? Like, how often do you get approached, and like, is it easy for you to be like, yeah, I want to work with these people. I don't want to work with those people. Like, building your brand is something that you've navigated very well at a young age. Like, what's your recommendation for any like young athlete there? Like, how to get sort of like the off the court, the other side of your life, like, going as well.
Yeah, I would say that although I'll post on Instagram. There was times where I used to
Yeah.
post a lot. Like in college, I posted a lot, but
A lot of thirst
now I don't
traps
really
back
post
in
as
college.
much. I know social media can bring you a long way, though. Social media and how you present yourself there can, other brands can find you based off of that. And the Silk Milk thing, they wanted a family who was pretty popular, so they came to us, and I feel like the way I kind of went about that was difficult because we
Yeah.
were in season, so I had to find like I might have had to fly out after
Yeah.
practice one day and then come back literally the same night,
Yeah.
like
It's kind
just
of
to do
stressful.
that. So it's hard. And one thing for me that I learned, like, because I was there during the first year of the NIL era, and there was a time where I was promoting the vaccination because it was a NIL deal. So I kind of learned the hard way off of that because not everybody's for the vaccination. So I feel like as a young kid getting these deals, you kind of have to do your research on the company, what you're getting
Yeah.
yourself into. Because after I did that vaccination one, my replies and all
Yeah.
that were insane. People were just like, "Oh, you're gonna die, blah blah. Why are you promoting this? They're killing us." So, I feel like if you're a young kid, looking to get those deals or to promote something, build your image on your Instagram. Whoever you are, make sure you project that because you don't want a brand coming to you thinking you're something else. And then do your research on what you're getting yourself into, so you don't get
Yeah.
any
When
backlash
you
or
do your research, is there like a
lose
certain
something else on you.
standard you're trying to find, like as you're digging, like is it something that yourself and your values you're trying to find an alignment, or is it a standard that they've set just as being professional? Like, what are you looking for? What offers do you say yes to?
I kind of look for stuff to have a similar uh,
Yeah.
audience. So if I can kind of figure out their type of audience or who it's going to be seen by, I feel like that kind of helps me a lot, like decide if it's a yes or no, and then also is like, how is this going to make me look
Right.
in the long
No,
run?
that makes sense.
So, you know, like when I did the one thing with Spray Ground, that's backpacks. That's a similar
Right.
audience, like, streetwear and all that. Silk Milk, pretty sure everybody loves milk, so I did that one
It's a
pretty
safe
easy.
bet.
And then,
It's a
there's
safe
been
bet.
a lot of things that I've turned. There's been a lot of things that I've turned down because I feel like either I wasn't interested in
Yeah.
it or I couldn't really relate or it just wasn't something
Can
I
I say
kind of
something?
wanted
If you're out there and you
to
don't like
do.
milk, don't listen to this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. No,
It's, you don't like silk milk,
we like
not
all
even
milks,
silk
all
milk, any
drinks.
milk, all
Um,
milk.
are there other ways that you feel like you've kind of crushed like the off-court athlete afterlife of this? Like if you had to stop playing basketball right now for whatever reason, whether it was like an injury or you just get sick of it or you get cut, like the inevitability of the end of your career, like do you feel prepared for the other side? Like do you know what you want to do?
Yes, but no. What I do want to do, if all that was to go out the window, it would definitely have to be with
Yeah.
fashion and music now. I kind of have the
Yeah.
fashion part of it. I feel like I've been getting a lot of, deals fashion wise just because of the outfits I put on
You
and
got that
post on
on.
Instagram. Cause, yeah, I didn't even know that it really worked like that. Because now I really used to only post basketball, but there's people like we want to
Yeah.
see your outfits more, and then I had to deal with Boohoo Man, and they had a picture of me and my brother on Times Square just because they
Yeah.
liked how we dressed. So stuff like that, that made me want to get into fashion even more. And my older brother used to do it, so
So it's more than anything at this point, it's kind of like a game of networking. It's like
it really
knowing which
is.
companies you want to start working with, like positioning yourself so that when that day does come, like you're ready to. And you already talked about the music thing already, dates all the way back to college. You're still doing it now. So it's kind of like you have a lot going on. Like you're not a one-dimensional person, right? You have a lot of interests that go deep. They're not superficial. You don't just like music, and listen to it occasionally. You don't just, casually follow Instagram accounts of clothing that you like. Like you're doing it. You're out there, like exposing yourself to it. You're diving deep into it, and you're working at it, and therefore you're going to be good after.
Yeah.
What is it about fashion? Like do you feel like it has anything to do with showing like the world who you are? Like, is it a form of expression that you like about it? Like, what drew you to it?
Yeah, I feel like it is a form of expression. And, I wasn't really used to, walking in every
Yeah, yeah,
game and, Someone's taking pictures of
Right.
you getting off the bus. Like, there are some times where I'd be caught off guard. I have no socks on. My
Yikes.
toes are out. Crazy
Yikes.
outfit. Just
Well,
'cause,
and in
you know,
general,
we're in
in
the
general,
stadium
you're
2
also
hours
kind of
early.
like an ugly person, so it's probably kind of scary at first too.
I know it doesn't make
Yeah.
it look any better. So, you know, I feel like now when Becca took one photo of me, she's like, "Wear a fit tomorrow."
Yeah.
League Fits wants to feature you on their page, and I was like, okay. So, you know, I wore something, and, you know, League Fits posted it. I think it was during the game, and I opened my phone after, and everyone sent it
Do
to
you
me.
remember
So
what
I
you
was
were
like,
wearing?
okay, fashion is. Yes, I had on a yellow zip-up jacket. Oh no, I had a yellow zip-up jacket. Brandon Jennings, tough crowd. Dickies jacket over it. Says my name on it. Has a big dog on the back. Some green cargo pants and had a little shoulder bag. Supreme beanie
Wow,
and some Jordan
you
1.
absolutely crushed that. You do remember that one. We're gonna track
Yeah,
track
actually
that
just looked at
down.
the
We're gonna
picture
track
last
that
night,
down
bro.
and put like a little photo of it. Yeah, that's a pretty good memory, man. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think maybe I was the worst dressed on the team.
Hold on.
James Sutherland was
James
worse.
or C?
James, I'm sorry, James. This is the second time you're coming up in this podcast. We're killing you right now. We absolutely love.
Wait, what was the first thing you
I don't
said?
remember, but I remember bringing up James Sutherland. And the guy, James, you're a legend. We love you. You're one of the maybe the funniest
James
teammate
is
I
a
ever
legend.
played with. The guy was hilarious. But yeah, he did dress terribly. I was probably bottom two. You know, I'm just a
Yeah,
sweats
let
and
me
Crocs
think.
kind of guy. You know, that's not gonna get you a lot of love on League Fits. I don't know why. I think it deserves it, but
I think you should be on there.
and then music like give me like a playlist. Like what are you listening to right now? I already know one of them. I know you're
But
listening to
Yeet,
Yeet. Who else is out there right
I
now?
listen
Who's
to
hot?
Future, Drake. You know, I listen to a lot of
Oh,
Rick
yeah.
Ross.
Oh.
I love Rick Ross.
That was pretty
Actually
good.
sounded perfect.
Rick, if you're listening.
But I feel like me, like on a game day, you know, I would just listen to beats. I wouldn't
Yeah.
even listen to lyrics like that. Like, 'cause I really like most of the songs I like are for the beat. You know, there can be a song that I love. I don't know what they're saying, but just because the beat is nice, you know, I like it. So I feel like I catch myself listening to a lot of just instrumentals.
Did you have like a
At times.
playlist? This pops into my mind. Did you have a playlist as you were recovering? Like, was there something that inspired you?
Yes, I actually have a playlist in my phone called
Really?
Surgery. It's like, oh, I'm on my phone. My phone's right here. It was because they told me I could listen to music like while they
Yeah.
were doing the prep. They're like, when we put you under, we're gonna take your AirPods out, blah blah blah. So the night before, I made a playlist, but it's I don't think it's any rap songs on there. It's a lot of like jazz
Yeah.
and like smooth old school R&B songs. You know,
Calm you down.
when I put that in my ears before I'm going down, I don't want rappers screaming in my ear while I'm about to get a heart surgery.
Talking about like
And I'm gonna
shooting
be panicking.
people while you're about to go into this life-altering surgery.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I would listen to that before they put me under, and you know it's crazy. I don't think I've
Really?
listened to that playlist since.
But
I
it's
got
cool that like you might not listen to it, but you still have it on your phone.
Yeah, it's still there. It says surgery, has a picture of a heart.
That's
like
cool.
I customized it, all that. Like it's super cool. I'm probably
You
always
should.
keep that playlist.
I'm gonna ask you for a screenshot of that playlist so we can put it in the show notes because I'm sure like people would love to see that. Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
All right, just for the sake of time, I don't want to. I know you got stuff going on. You're a busy guy. What's next for you? You and I were texting about this. I think a couple weeks ago. Like what's the next step in your basketball path? Like what's going on this summer? What's going on next season?
This summer, you know, is just a summer of, I would say, development. Until I get called back up to go with the team, you know, it's strictly just basketball time. Like that's all I really been worried about. You know how it was during the season, the other distractions I had, but you know now, I feel like I just kind of woke up one day and I cut that all out, and I feel like I remember you had a conversation with me in the middle of this season. You said you, Marcus, and John were talking about it. and they're like on how good I could be if I really just like really like put myself into it. So, I always remember that. You told me that months ago, but I always remember that every single day. And I feel like I kind of just clicked it not too long ago, and I'm like, okay, everyone talks about how good I can be. Like, I need to get to that point, because even though they're not saying you are this good, how good you could be, it kind of motivates you in a way to like, I want to find out. So, ever since you told me that, and I knew that there was people who believed in me, like that were with me every day. They saw me at my best and my worst, and they believed in me. I feel like that just
do you think that
woke
like
me up in the working real
I'll call
hard.
it like a spiritual awakening? Did that for your on the court stuff? Did that coincide with? You said just 2 months ago you started introducing yourself as Shareef, right? When people would ask you if you're Shaq's son, like, did those kind of happen at the same time? Like, did that click?
Yeah, dude. I feel like that's probably the reason why I started doing that, because when you said how good I could be, like they're not talking about my dad at all. Like you weren't talking about my dad. So if I'm talking about myself, I got to put my name into people's heads early, because they're gonna remember. They're not gonna be like, oh, that's Shaq's son. Oh, that's Shareef. I want to get to the point to where they're going up to my dad, in 30 years. Oh, that's Shareef's dad, just so he can get the feeling of it. So, it's just like that's just. I feel like it all kind of is falling into place, and
Sorry, back up. You're saying you just feel like it's all falling into place, and then I lost you.
Yes, it feels like it's all falling into place, and I feel like it helps build my own name now, because where I want to be and where I know I can be, just it'll help for that. And sorry, it just glitched out. My grandma was calling me.
Hey man, you got stuff going on, man. Come on now. No, you're good. Yeah, I wanted to, like I said, kind of close this out. One fun thing we do at the end is we do this rapid fire. Okay? Just 3 quick questions. You can take as long or as short as you want to answer them. These are your questions. Number 1 is your hidden talent.
Hidden talent that I can kind of fix any technology thing. Like I can find a way to make it work. Like I'm
like
kind of a tech nerd a little bit.
I like
nobody
that.
knows that.
You don't have to be shy. You don't have to say I can kind of do it. You can do it. There's nothing wrong with it. That is very hidden, because I actually had no idea. I wish I did, because I'm
Yeah, I act like I don't know a lot about technology.
Very bad, very poor with technology. We could use you on the team, because sometimes I wonder how technically inclined my producers are. Greatest sports moment that you've been a part of. That could be as a spectator, as a fan, as a player. Like, what's the moment that lives rent free in your head that was like that's very special to you?
I would say probably the time I won state championship. I feel like that was a whole different feeling.
Why?
That was back when I was a senior, 2018. I feel like that was probably my best.
What was so special about it? Like, was it the team you were on, that like a bond you had? Like, was it a tough? Were you the underdogs? Like, what was so great about it?
Yes, we were the underdogs. That team hadn't won the state championship, and I think it was like 30-something years. And that I went to a performing arts school, so it was like nobody's gonna take it serious. And I feel like the fact that they brought my little brother up to varsity for the playoffs, and we both got a ring. I feel like that made it even better.
Who's the toughest person you've ever had to guard? G League or Drew League, summer workouts, whatever.
I would say a high school Bobo. It might have been unstoppable.
Who's that?
Bobo in high school. I haven't played against him since high school, but that was just unfair. Like,
the dude's like 7'9". It's kind of tough.
It was.
Is he signed back with Orlando next year? Man, he's a beast. I think eventually, he's gonna explode, and people are gonna realize that he was Wembanyama before everyone started falling in love with Wembanyama.
He would, yes, he really was. I remember we talked about it with Pooh. I was like, and Cam, like, I was like, bro, Bobo has been doing this for a long time. Wimby's just a little bit taller.
Who are
And
you closest with
a
in the
little bit
league
younger.
right now? Like, who's your best friend that's in the league?
I'll say
Yeah.
Josh
I
Christopher
see you
for
post about
Rockets.
him a lot. Did you guys play in high school together or AU?
We played AAU together. We actually won. I think it was like the
Yeah.
Fab
That's a
48
big
together,
one.
like in Vegas. You know that tournament everybody goes to. And he just been my friend since I was in like middle school. Him and his older brother Caleb are like my two best friends.
All right, last question, Shareef, and then I'll let you go. Get back to watching cartoons or whatever you do. 3 people that need to be on this show.
You need to get Mojave. Are we talking 3 people
No,
in
3
general
people
or
in
3
general.
people we know?
I mean, I'll get Mojave. I think Mojave would be. Oh, he'd be great.
Mojave's is funny.
He'd be
I feel like
great.
he'll be good.
No, 3 people. Like 3 people that come to mind for you that need to be on the show. We don't both have to know them.
Okay, Mojave one. What's the Joe Rogan
would be pretty solid. Do you know Joe?
No,
That would be
for
awesome.
real. That would be awesome. I feel like you guys have a good conversation.
I think he's going to be impossible to get, but you're going to help me get him
because
you're the one nominating him. All right.
I will. I'll just.
All right,
I'll
good.
tell you need to get on this podcast. Third person. Another person has a good story. Keontae Johnson. Like he kind of went through he played for Florida. He's about to be a rookie in the NBA.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? The kid. I feel like he has a really good story, and his situation was a little different from mine. And I feel like that's also something people want to know more about. So
no, that's great.
Like he would have a good story.
I'll reach out to him, Joe, and Mojave. Maybe I'll just make a little group chat with us four. Hey, Shareef, I appreciate it. I know you're busy. It sounds like you're just absolutely grinding this summer, which I love to hear. You got a little taste of professional basketball. You know how good you're going to be. You've overcome some incredible things already in life, and it sounds like you're getting your off the court after basketball stuff all set up, which I think is at your age very, very unique and extremely intelligent to be doing. Leveraging that network that you have, and most importantly, breaking away from that shadow, like building your own journey and becoming like Shareef, not Shaq's son. I think that's super, super cool. Extremely grateful, extremely proud. One of my absolute favorite people, one of my brothers. Grateful that we were brought together by Ignite. I can't thank you enough for being on the show.
Yes, sir.
Love you, brother.
My guy.